This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you want.
You have located GeekFest Rants, the entertainment podcast for genre geeks like you.
Shall we play a game?
Covering the world of vintage and current film and television since 2010.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Featuring in-depth conversations on sci-fi, horror, fantasy, comics, toys, and conventions.
So say we all. So say we all.
And now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show.
Look outside. It's a world more peaceful since the revolution. I see nothing but chaos. We must restore the natural order of things. Don't you agree?
Never met a Mandalorian. I've only read the stories.
Hi everybody, and welcome once again to GeekFest Rants. My name is Carlos Perone, and today I have Steve Folks joining me as we continue with our review of the first season of The Mandalorian. We're reviewing basically the second half this time. Amazing show, completely unexpected, the results, and this second half throws us a little bit into the good things and bad things, if you will, of the show. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the issue of fan service, what constitutes fan service, and how this show tries to balance it out. So let's get started with our second part of The Mandalorian.
Television is not the truth. Television is an amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business.
All right, we are back once again with Steve, where we are going to pick it up where we left off last time with The Mandalorian. Last time we went for the first 4 episodes. We did about half a season. And today we're going to finish off the season. Wow, this is a show that... Talk about a popular show as it develops and as it comes on and the reaction. Now, some of the episodes we're going to talk about today are, I think, some of the episodes that if there are any group complaints, they happen around here. In terms of some people not being very happy about certain things that are done. So let's begin with Chapter 5, which is called The Gunslinger, which was directed by Dave Filoni. You know, he's coming back once again from the earlier episode to direct another one. Now, this one, off the bat, and we had talked about this before, when it comes to storytelling in Star Wars, is fan service. You know,
Yeah.
we are at Tatooine, ladies and gentlemen. It's not only are we in Tatooine, but we're at Mos Eisley. His ship gets damaged. He has a dogfight with another bounty hunter, and because of the damage, he has to land to get his ship repaired. And it just happens that it's Tatooine where he's at. So, I mean, it's there. It's all there. It's like it's right there in front of you. It's like you're watching one of the prequels or something. It's so there. He lands in Mos Eisley. Okay, he doesn't land in Docking Bay 94. Okay, that's good. At least it's not 94.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, he lands on Docking Bay 35. I was looking at the thing on the wall, and I'm like, that's a 3, that's a 5. And we are introduced to a new character who's, I guess, the mechanic or the person in charge of that docking bay, played by Amy Sedaris, who, to me, she looked familiar, but I had never seen any of her work before. She's a comedic actress, I believe, a show called Strangers with Candy. Again, I'm not familiar with it, but I know it's somewhat popular. So that's why I kept thinking she must be a big deal because they're really like focusing on her quite a bit. Were you familiar with her?
No, I wasn't, but I heard once the episode aired, I heard a bunch of people saying, no, I didn't know it was her.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, she must be someone of importance.
So part of the issue that he has is that he needs to repair the ship, but he really doesn't have much money. So he leaves the ship and the child at the docking bay, and the little baby Yoda. And she's kind of like, at first she doesn't really care much, or she doesn't even know it's there because it's hiding inside. But then she gets very friendly with it, and there's some pit droids there, so it's like, it's a callback to the prequels. It's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. They're bringing they're bringing those droids back. We haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah, I was actually really happy. Happier than I thought I would be to see prequel droids, to see the prequels. But yeah, I'm glad they brought them in. It was a nice little. Again, I hate fan service, I guess, but
well, you almost never see too much stuff going back to the prequels. Most of the time, it's the original trilogy. Yeah. People want original trilogy, but yeah, that's good. They give you a little bit, throw some love, spread the love around. So he's walking through town, and you get that shot that we had originally seen in the trailer of the stormtrooper helmets on spikes.
Yeah, finally showed up
in the sand, and it's like, oh, okay, so I guess they're really not welcome in Tatooine as opposed to some other locations that are a little more welcoming. So that was interesting, and he goes to the cantina, our favorite cantina. Now, I have to find the name because I know that this has been researched, and in one of the conventions that I went to a while back, an ongoing panel that they had was something having to do with the archaeological findings of the cantina, meaning based on the footage that you see in Star Wars A New Hope, trying to decipher as much as possible how many creatures are there, how many people are there, what's in the walls, what decorations are there. And apparently, one of the things that you briefly see that they really, really show you on this episode is the name of the cantina itself above the door. I think the original one was very either blurry or shaded or something, but here it's boom, right there. Granted, it's not a language that you or I would understand, and I'm not sure if it's still called, what is it, Chalmun's Cantina? I don't know if that's the name, but off the bat, he walks in there, and why don't you tell us, how has it changed during the years?
Oh, well, I mean, it might be the cantina in name only because it's pretty barren. I mean, poor Wu Hare, the bartender, is no longer employed here, apparently.
Nope.
and we see this, I think it's run by droids. I think there's a droid behind the bar.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of droids, and there's no droid machine telling people, none of that. That's gone.
And yeah, it's pretty desolate. I mean, it does in terms of compared to when we first see the cantina in A New Hope, where it's bustling, it's like this lively atmosphere, and you see all these new weird creatures and faces. With this, there's literally one droid, and I want to say maybe there's 3 people, in the shot itself.
Yep.
Including the next person who Mando meets, which is a fellow bounty hunter.
Right, and his name is Toro Calican, who is kind of like you could say he's somewhat of a Han Solo knockoff,
the poor man's Han Solo.
Yeah, he's a young guy who wants to be a bounty hunter. He wants to make a name for himself. He does have one of those pucks for somebody that's apparently being hunted, but he needs help because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So one way or the other, he talks him into helping him out. He's going to give him the money if he just helps him get the person. This way he can just, get the credit for getting the person.
Yep.
But he can have the money. This way he can, he's going to fix his ship, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, fine.
Sort of like a mutual, they both win sort of thing.
Yeah. It's also like he wants a mentor. He wants to learn from somebody who's really good at this. But, it's a little shady. You don't really trust him too much. But he gives off this impression of being a young, impressionable, dumb kid kind of thing, like very innocent.
Yeah, very headstrong.
Just in the wrong business. So they get 2 bikes, like Return of the Jedi bikes, bikes. And they go out into the desert looking for this person, with the puck. And they have some really beautiful shots of scenic shots, which again, this brings me back to the first couple of episodes where you had all that westerny, outdoorsy stuff. Well, here, even though it's Tatooine, it's just gorgeous how they shoot this. And again, the more I learn about this show, the more I'm amazed at the fact that all this stuff is done in studio, not on location. And it's like something that apparently they perfected during, I think it was Solo, and that is this wraparound kind of screen.
Oh, the projection.
With LED projections where they can project anything. They can project a scene. Not only can they now project hyperspace so that the actors see hyperspace and the lights from the hyperspace are flashing on their face, but now they can project the entire background. They can project mountains and skies and vistas. It's just ridiculous. It just blows you away. But yeah, they do have a lot of things, in Tatooine that they're looking at. They have a run-in with some Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
Where they,
which I did like, because it's like one shot of like it's completely open land around them. Like the next scene is like these two Tusken Raiders are like right there next to them.
They're right. He's like, oh, he's right behind you. Like, oh. And they can't communicate. They don't speak the language, but the Mandalorian can do like sign language.
I thought was really cool. I really liked this idea.
You know what it is? Obviously, it's a Western trope. It's the talking to the Indians, with the either symbols or very basic language that they understand. It's that scene. We've seen that scene before, and obviously they're adapting it. It felt a little corny to me for some reason. It felt like these are sand people. They should be like clobbering them. They don't have time to talk to anybody. They just want to, kick your butt and steal your stuff. So it kind of felt weird that they were just so willing to just talk.
See, now I think you're racial stereotyping there, Carlos. No, I think I like it because yeah, you're right in the fact that these guys we've only seen them either A, attack you, or B, steal your stuff and then attack you probably later. but I just thought it was pretty. It was different, where it gave you sort of this. Okay, they can be bartered with, and it wasn't just them talking. Because obviously that wouldn't work. So the idea that he was clever enough to use sign language was more of a character building thing for Mando than anything else.
So at some point they go so far into the desert that they actually see out there a dewback dragging a body. And they think, well, maybe is the body because the puck is still aiming in that direction, and when they approach the body, it's not the person they're looking for; it's someone else, and then they start to take fire from even farther away from a higher location, and I don't know if this is the first time, but this is at least the first time that it is confirmed that the Mandalorian can take blaster shots, into his armor. Not necessarily without any problem, but it doesn't kill him and it doesn't penetrate. That armor, that special armor that he has, is specially made for that.
The Beskar. Yeah, that's what I think you were going on about, how the Beskar armor was so thick. He gets throughout this episode, he gets shot really, heck, like he takes like a beating, and the armor, it definitely protects him because he's still standing and taking it right point blank, basically.
Yep. So he kind of devises a plan where they're going to rush the sniper at night. But the way they're going to do it is they're going to send, they're going to both ride the motorcycles, the bikes, and let these flares go that will blind the sniper at night. So that gives him enough time to get there. So that kind of sort of works, even though he does get hit at one point. So Callaghan gets there first, I think, and starts fighting with the sniper. And then right as the sniper gets the upper hand on him, the Mandalorian arrives and kind of saves him from getting his butt kicked or killed. Yeah. So they take the sniper under arrest, or they tie her up, and tie her up meaning they take the helmet off, and we find out it's Ming-Da Wen from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She plays
Fennec Shand, I think, or something. Yeah,
Fennec Shand, something like that. Which it's like, wow, this is a known actress. That making it. A lot of known people make it into the show. It's really funny how they sneak them in. They're not all brand new. The guy who plays Toro, he didn't look familiar to me. Did he look familiar?
No,
to you?
He did. I mean, I'll say this. He actually looks familiar, but I it must be something very small or something, because he looks familiar.
You know who he reminded me of? He reminded me of, I think his name is it Peter Gallagher, the guy from Gremlins who was the young guy?
Yeah. I think he'd be way
but
too.
He wouldn't be nothing like, he's like in his 60s by now. Yeah, but he's, again, he looked kind of familiar. I just can't place him. I'm sure he's probably like a Disney superstar or something. Because everybody's a Disney star. So at one point, they kind of throw, while they have her wearing cuffs, one person tells the other, like, she's no good to us dead. And that's a takeoff, on the he's not good to me dead or something like that from Empire. It was a lifted line, more or less. So it was like, okay, I get it. That's nice. So I think it is they only have one bike working because the other one got blown up. So the Mandalorian agrees to, I'm going to go get the dewback and, wait for me with her here, and then we'll take her back. But while he's away, she starts talking to him about, hey, I got a better idea. Why don't you do this and do that? And why don't you take the child or the asset or whatever the hell it is, and you can have it all. And he's like thinking it over, and he's like, yeah, it's not a bad idea. So he just outright shoots her, like cold-blooded shoots her. And you're like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah, this is one of those moments where I was like, because as this is playing out, I was like, okay, I see what's going to happen. She's going to convince him to turn on Mando. It's going to be this cliche. Like,
she's going to kill him, yeah.
But no, the fact that he blows her away so, up front, I was like, wow, okay, Disney.
Well, they switched the character. The character went from being this innocent, most likely to die in the next 10 minutes type of character to the more or less the central bad guy of this episode. Pretty much. So he leaves her there, and then he drives back to the docking bay, and by the time the Mandalorian gets there, he examines her and he just says, all right, screw it, and he goes back to the docking bay, and he's waiting for him, holding hostage the child, the mechanic, the pit droids. Everybody's being held hostage, and through some diversion, the Mandalorian is able to shoot him dead. And that's the end of it, pretty much. One quick little line that gets used there, I think the pit droids kind of want to know what to do with the body, and she says, just drag it to Beggar's Canyon. Yeah. It's like, Beggar's Canyon. Okay, I get that. I know what that is. So that was another cute little callback. But the biggest mystery of this episode is what happens next. Why don't you explain to us what happens next?
Well, at the end, because obviously in Star Wars there's no such thing as dead means dead. So and this is what occurred to me when I first saw this scene. I was like, okay, maybe the sniper that they killed, I assumed that they were gonna immediately have her get up or something, or you see like her move or something. But interestingly enough, she still looks dead. So but we hear someone approaching her body. And we hear these spurs on the ground and like these very
like a jingling, like
ching, 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 if you have like spurs in your boots or keys or something. And we see these boots approach, and we just see her body. The camera's focused on her body, so we only see like from the ground level, and we see like the boots approach.
And I think we also see very briefly some kind of a cape or a coat.
Yeah. Yep.
Something like a cloth hanging behind. So I'm like, you know what we're all thinking.
Yeah. Well,
you know what everybody's thinking.
Yeah, when it first happens, to me, I honestly didn't feel. Everyone felt it was like Boba Fett or something. I didn't get that feeling. It didn't just the stance and the walk he had. It didn't really come off as Boba Fett for me. It came off as more of like someone of importance. Not that Boba Fett's not important, but it felt like it was someone from importance. Like it's like
talk about fan service. If they threw if eventually it ends up being Boba Fett. Now here's the thing. I think somebody even looked it up. In Empire Strikes Back, I think it's the scene where Vader surprises our heroes at Cloud City at the dining room table. And I'll be happy if you join us or whatever. And Boba Fett takes a step from the left to the right behind Vader, and you hear the jingling as he steps. So I think that's the connection a lot of fans are making. It's like, oh my God, it's the jingling.
Yeah, I really hope it's not on one hand. I mean, I like Boba Fett. He's cool and all, but I just feel like just throwing him in here would be sort of, I don't know, it would take away from Mandalorian himself for me. But and I didn't even get that feel, to be honest, that was going to be Boba Fett. But it was a good episode. It was a lot of fan service packed in. I think for Dave Filoni, for him, breaking in from animation to now live action, I think he's done a pretty good job.
I think it was all right. It's not my favorite episode, and to me, I'm more invested in the, I guess what you can call what in this show becomes the mythology of the show, which is the child. The child that original planet where everything started. Whenever they kind of go off-world, I lose a little interest. Yeah. I want to know more about the Empire. I want to know more about what this child does, what he is. You know, when we take these side trips, I'm like, okay, all right, I'll go to the side trip. I understand we have to make some side trips, but I like the mythology of the show. It's like when I used to watch Lost, it's like I was more into the science than the relationships, you know? So to me, this is how the show, works best, is when they give us more of that original story.
Yeah, and I like you said, I'm okay with them doing sort of the episodes where they're sort of like one-off adventure, really type of episodes. But in this space of like from episode 4 to I want to say 7, there's a lot of these. Like all those episodes are basically one-off adventures, so sort of like sidetracks.
Yeah.
And I think if they would have spaced it, they would have gone maybe back and forth between them. I think it would have landed a bit better. But we got like 3 episodes in a row of just sort of random stories with no real connection to what you were talking about. So yeah, it sort of slowed down a bit. But I like the stories that they were telling you. I just wish that they would have spaced them out a bit.
Well, the next episode, which is Chapter 7, it's called The Prisoner. And it's directed by, let's see, because I know they keep repeating directors. This one is Rick Fumuyawa. I know I'm not saying it right. There's no way I'm ever going to say it right. It's impossible. It's very difficult for me. And this is, again, a weird, different kind of episode. It's a heist episode. It's basically a heist episode. Not really related to anything specific. He is hired to do a job, and he returns to this kind of space station where he meets up with some old associates, if you will, and they're gonna do a heist. They're gonna steal something. They're gonna get something. They're gonna grab somebody. The main actor off the bat, and again, they like to use, to me, what's known actors. His name is Mark Boone Jr. He has played every like biker guy member, gang member ever for the last like 30 years. Every single show that ever had a biker gang member, this guy's in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at him and you look where he's running, this is like the Hell's Angels, I guess, or biker gang of Star Wars. It's like a sort of outpost, gritty.
Yeah. He's an actor that when they say get me the gang member, that's his job. That's what he does. But you also had so it's basically assembling a group of rough individuals. Some of them know each other, some of them don't, to perform this heist. You also have a couple of other known actors or personalities. One is Bill Burr, who's a comedian. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't too familiar with him as an actor, but I have heard of him as a comedian before, so that's interesting. Natalia Tira, she looked very familiar to me. I'm like, she plays a Twi'lek, but she's like a psychopathic Twi'lek. Yeah, she has knives. She likes to throw knives or something. I'm like, she looks very, and then I found out she was in one of the Harry Potter films. Okay. She played like one of these crazy bad guys in Harry Potter.
It's like every movie.
I know, right? And more known to not only Star Wars fans, but, genre fans, Clancy Brown. Yeah. Clancy Brown plays this big red horn kind of creature. I don't know if it's related to the one from the Cantina.
Yeah. He's a Deveronian, I think is his name.
Okay,
the name,
so that must be it.
No, it's definitely the same species.
He's been in Clone Wars, I think. He's been a voice actor before. He's done a lot of stuff, even in Star Wars. Like I said, I think he might have played Krell. General Krell, I think it was. I don't remember for sure, but I remember that he has been through Star Wars a couple of times in the animated shows, and he's always going to be the guy from the Highlander. He's the bad guy. Yeah. He's always going to be that guy, and he plays like
even after all these years. I don't think he's ever going to.
I kept listening to see if there are any lines that they would kind of throw them in the Highlander realm, but I don't think so. I couldn't pick them out. But he's this thug. He's the muscle of the group, basically. But the gang also has a robot, a droid. That's their mission. Their mission is to go in there and to retrieve, apparently, a prisoner, because it's a prison ship that they're hijacking, a Republic prison ship. So there's a lot of stuff in this episode of them getting in there, of sneaking in, of fighting with some droids. At one point, they actually find an actual person who's guarding that. Apparently, there weren't supposed to be any humans or beings, but there's somebody in there.
Yeah, just to give the background here, so this is like a New Republic prisoner ship. So
Right.
it's supposed to be all automated, and I guess they figured that it would be completely remote with no actual human there. But there is one guy
There is one guy.
I guess it's still like on cruise control. So I guess they have to have like one guy to make sure that that nothing goes wrong, just a pilot.
Not the luckiest guy around, because he ends up getting killed pretty fast.
I felt bad actually. I felt bad
And
for that guy.
obviously, I'm sure everybody realizes that's Mad Lantern, who played Anakin in the Clone Wars. It's like, okay. I'm like, oh. And again, to me, it's like, because I know this stuff so much, when I see something like that, it kind of brings me out of the show. It's like, oh, there's Mad Lantern. Oh, there's Mad Lantern. It's like, oh shit, I'm not in the show anymore. Now I'm just geeking out.
Well, what's funny is he caught that, but everyone was complaining about the fact that Bill Burr was, the I guess side character as well, and that got them out. I honestly didn't know who Bill Burr was, so to me it was okay. Yeah, it's just this really cool ball guy.
It didn't bother me because like I said, I'm not familiar with his work. That I mean, I know he's a comic, but I haven't really watched any of his stand up or anything. But I did know the name, so he didn't bother me at all. They had a pretty cool thing where he had like this third arm, mechanical arm, holding a gun. So while he's shooting two guns, there's a third gun shooting two.
I thought that was
whatever.
a little weird. I thought that was a little cheesy, but it's
different.
Right.
I'd never seen that before, so that was all right. Now, what's weird about this episode, and I kept noticing it, and I don't know why it kept bothering me. I think there was a problem with the editing of the episode. The scenes to me seemed to linger too long. Where they could have cut to something, they would stay on it. And then it would be silence. And then they would move on to the next thing. I think there was a pacing problem with the episode, where things didn't move fast enough. So it gave me this weird feeling of, let's get on with it. Let's go. And then when they finally reach the guy they're there to rescue, it's like, it didn't really mean much to me. It's like, so what? So who is this? This is the brother of the crazy girl.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It just, I felt like there was no payoff or no twist to finding this guy.
I'll say this, that didn't bother me as much, but what did bother me was at the end of this episode, when they sort of decide to betray Mandalorian, and they throw him in they lock him up, and then he breaks out and he has to go on this like hunting spree. Which was really cool. I love that. That was a really great scene of him, like,
that was pretty good too.
Hunting down one by one. But this is where the editing comes into play for me, is where as he's hunting them down one by one, it keeps cutting. It keeps like giving like these fake out deaths that he's killing them, and then it edits. They do the thing where like it'll do like a scene of him like about to kill one of the guys, and then it edits. I mean, it cuts like another scene. So it makes it look like that he must have killed that guy, okay. But then at the end, these guys are all still alive. So I'm like,
well, that's the thing. It's almost like when I used to watch the A-Team, where nobody dies.
Yeah. Oh, no, he just knocked
everybody's
them out.
shooting every machine gun conceivable to man. Nobody gets hit.
No.
It's like G.I. Joe. We're not allowed to kill anyone. And it's like, but this show is allowed to kill people. This show has killed a lot of people already. Yep. Why would you not want to get your hands dirty?
Yeah, I guess they wanted to keep these guys around, so to bring them back, so they give them some extra enemies later on. But you don't really need to. I mean, you have enough.
Or at least kill one or two of them, so it's a little more realistic. That some of them put up a fight, bigger fight than others, and I mean, I think they got rid of the droid. The droid gets
I think he does.
But it really doesn't matter much.
Yeah, and at the end, to be fair, at the very end, they sort of had like this device where if they press a button, it would basically radio in New Republic ships to come in and nuke out and nuke whatever is. It's sort of like a dead man switch, basically.
Right, and they were supposed to have hidden it in his ship.
Yeah, right, and they hid it in what's the actor you were talking about before? Who plays every biker?
The biker guy.
Yeah. Mando sort of puts the switch on it and puts it onto his ship, and it goes off, and they see the X-Wings come in and they blow them up. So at least they are not afraid to take chances. They killed off that guy, but. Yeah, I wish they would have sort of followed through on killing off.
But you're forgetting the most important part. Well, you're forgetting two things. They don't want to kill people. Okay, fine. But these X-Wings that come and they start shooting up that base, wouldn't that that base be full of other kind of people that are like non-essential workers that are like, it's like, holy crap, they just blew up a space station, more or less. And it's like, it wasn't just two bad guys sitting there laughing it up. They were like mechanics and all. It's like, whoa.
I mean, we can assume, I guess, that these guys are all part of some sort of like gang where they're probably not the most nicest people around. But I mean, to sentence them to death, I guess, it is a bit harsh.
But bringing us back to that whole thing about bringing me out of the episode, and again, you have to be a Star Wars nerd to at least
Squadron.
I mean, it's Filoni flying, and it's the other two directors. It's the guy who directed this episode, and I think Deborah Chow is the other one.
Yeah.
So it's like, now granted, the last two I wouldn't recognize because I'm not familiar with them.
Oh, no,
but Filoni, it's like Lucas.
Very
easy
to
and
notice.
it's like, okay, there we go. It's
I will say this. I actually like this. It was so
Commander fan service to the rescue.
It was so on the nose and like so in your face. I was like, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
they could have gave him a beard, or they could have put some. They could have turned him into an alien.
He did have like the visor down.
They should have put him in alien makeup, so it's him, but you don't recognize. It's like, again, I just felt it was, again, between this and the last episode, I kind of saw the whole show kind of slow down a little bit. Like, it's like, okay, can we get back to the other thing? I want to go to the other thing.
Yeah, and like I said, these are good stories on their own, but I think, again, just putting them all linked together, like one after the other, it got a bit repetitive, and like, because everyone is wondering, okay, well, you introduced Baby Yoda to us, this big a story beat here, but then we don't really go back to it for like 3 episodes or 4 episodes in a row. So yeah, I know, I get what you're saying.
Well, we next move on to episode 7. That even though they're not listed as part 1 and part 2, this is a 2-parter more or less, because this is what ends the season. Episode 7, called The Reckoning, directed by Deborah Chow. And this is basically, the Mandalorian gets a message from Carl Weathers saying, there's a way that we can fix this. The Empire is getting a little out of control now. They're doing all kinds of things. They're taking our business away, blah, 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 whatever. Why don't we bring the asset and we can jump, we can twist, we can flip the script on the Empire and kill them instead of, this way they can stop hunting you down, because all they're doing is hunting everywhere you go. They keep showing up. Yeah, somebody's always after you.
Yeah, you think he would have known that, by the way. Like, he is a bounty hunter himself. So you think he would have known that? Yeah, they can just keep tracking you.
And I think by this point they kind of figured out that. And I don't know if they addressed this, but it's not like there's a hidden device in their clothes or something. I think it's the asset. The asset has some DNA genetic thing that they can just track it. They know where he goes, and that's the bottom line. So he kind of goes for it. He's like, all right, let's do this. Let's get them before they get us, and let's work it out. So, but before doing that, he goes and hires Dunn from the previous episode to kind of help him out on this mission to try to get everything back.
He goes back to the planet where she was left, where she stayed behind at, and recruits her.
Now, in this episode is the first time I actually noticed, when they actually show you a close-up of her face, that I thought she had like a beauty mark or something, and it's a rebel tattoo that she has. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never noticed that before.
That's pretty cool. I like
another thing that happens is that he goes to the other planet where Quill is, because he wants his help too in this particular mission, and he finds out at that point that the IG-11 droid that he had killed now is working for Quill because he's helping him out with stuff like a servant droid, I guess.
Yeah, he literally is a nurse droid.
He becomes a nurse droid.
Oh, well, yeah.
But he's like, he still has that thing about not trusting droids. He's not happy with it, and he doesn't trust them still, and that kind of thing. There's an interesting scene where the Mandalorian is arm wrestling with Dunn, and for whatever reason, the Baby Yoda kind of sees it as if she's hurting him, I guess. He's attacking him. She doesn't understand that they're playing a game. And he starts to kind of like choke her or something, and everybody kind of freaks out. It's like, no, relax. This isn't what you're supposed to do. It's like, oh, okay. So he doesn't understand that.
It sort of goes to the point where the Baby Yoda here is he's obviously acting very instinctually. Right. So he's not like thinking about this, and it sort of proves the point where he can, like, I guess the Force sort of, I guess, flows through him, I guess, more out of instinct rather than just maybe conscious choice, because
right, like he has no training. He's just doing it
he just does it, because he's out of protection. Yeah.
Now, the other thing here is that when they meet up with Carl Weathers also has some, and his name is Navarro, right?
Navarro, yeah.
Navarro. He has other kind of bounty hunters that he hired to kind of help. And in one of these, it was like a night scene or something where they're camping out, planning their moves or whatever, and all of a sudden they're attacked by these flying wing creatures.
Yeah.
And Navarro is hurt. They kind of choose his leg or something. And it looks like he's like really like he could be dying, like how hurt his leg is. And that's when we get the Baby Yoda performing his little magic that he tried to do, I think, on the first episode or the second episode. But the Mandalorian wouldn't let him. And here he kind of touches his leg and heals it, which, again, this was the link to the Rise of Skywalker.
It's the beginning, yeah. There's a reason that we got. Just this episode debuted the week before Skywalker came out.
Exactly. So we got something, we got yet another thing that we've never seen before that the asset gets to do. We do see in this episode some biker scouts, which we hadn't seen before in this show.
Oh, yes.
And what's interesting is that because they're in this dusty, dirty planet, it's like a sand trooper, but it's like a sand biker scout because they're all kind of dirty. But what's also interesting is that the bikes are white. They're not the Return of the Jedi black or gray bikes. They're actually light-colored bikes, which is like, oh, that looks a little interesting. It looks different than riding a white-colored bike. There's a scene where they get cornered, I think it is. Yes, they get cornered, they go to make the exchange. Carl Weather brings him in as if he's his prisoner to meet Werner Herzog's character. And he's like, yeah, okay, great, let's do this, let's do that. And as they're kind of preparing to exchange whatever, the place gets completely shot up from the outside. Somebody showed up and started shooting him up, and they killed just about every stormtrooper in there. Herzog gets killed, except for the good guys. Everybody shut up, and now they're stuck in this house, more or less, completely surrounded. Shock troopers, death troopers, stormtroopers, you name it, they're there.
This scene reminds me of Saving Private Ryan, when they're in that little like bar thing is a standoff, and then all of a sudden the Allies come with all like the guns and just shooting everyone up.
Oh yeah, and part of the thing that's happening is that I think at some point the Mandalorian told Quill, if things go bad, just get the asset out of here. Just get him out of here, get on my ship, and just right away. So somehow, I forget exactly how, I don't know if they communicate through a communication device or something. He takes off in one of those weird giant frog things that they're riding.
I forgot the name of them.
And he's riding away, and two biker scouts start going after him. So the way that they intercut the scene is this battle that's taking place and then Quill trying to get away from the biker scouts. So at this point, we're introduced to another new character, another new bad guy, and that is Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito. He's been on everything, every single movie you can probably think of, from the 90s all the way television, Breaking Bad, you name it. He plays such good bad guys. It's ridiculous.
It's funny. This is the first time I've heard of him. I never encountered him before.
God. I think the first time I saw him might have been on Do the Right Thing.
Oh yeah,
he's been in a lot of Spike Lee films and a lot of he just works it's incredible. The guy just works nonstop. And again, one of his biggest, craziest bad guy roles was in Breaking Bad. But he is this guy that all of a sudden he's flying a TIE fighter, and the TIE fighter parks in front of this house that's getting shot up.
Most dramatic.
And then this is now again, this isn't fan service. This is holy crap moment. This is exactly what I think we want. The wings all of a sudden bend. They go from the flat to like a V-shaped bending. This way they don't hit the ground as the TIE fighter lands, and landing gear comes out of the bottom.
Yeah.
as the wings continue to fold, thereby not touching the ground. And
like the wings fold horizontally so it can like clear the ground. Because whenever we see TIE fighters in the atmosphere, they always have to like awkwardly land on their wings. I think you see it in Star Wars Rebels. In Rebels, it like sort of just, the wings. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It seems like it would do more damage.
In animated shows, they've done that. They've done the landing on the wings thing. Obviously, in space, they do a lot of the attached to something from the top,
like a hook, Star Destroyer,
all kinds of ways. Because on a movie, they've never shown any manner of them being able to get close to the ground. Even in the new sequels, they're attached to the wall. They kind of on a rotating kind of thing. What's interesting, and I just found this out like a day ago. I don't know if it was the Visual Dictionary. Once again, the Visual Dictionary.
Oh, the almighty Visual Dictionary.
Oh, God, that Visual Dictionary. There's a picture in the back. I think it was the visual. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think it was it. Well, it doesn't matter. There's a Doug Chiang painting, concept art, that he did for The Force Awakens. And it shows a TIE fighter landing with the folded wings with the landing gear. So it's like, that's where they got it.
That might have been, I don't think that was a visual dictionary. I think it might have been one of the art of books. Do you have?
I think it's the art of The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Because they credit The Force Awakens for it.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing that as well, actually, now that you mentioned it. But yeah, I don't think that was the visual dictionary, though.
And I think the way, again, I'm not entirely sure, but I think we're not led to believe that all TIE fighters do that, and they've always been able to do that. I think this is just for him because he's a special guy.
Yeah, Star Wars is always known for that, for giving their bad guys like a special vehicle. Like, cool. Something cool to stand out.
And like, for example, the Death Troopers show up. It's like, okay, well, when the Death Troopers showed up during Rogue One, everybody's like, well, where the hell were these Death Troopers when these other movies were? They were so special only for that guy.
Elite forces.
Okay, that kind of makes a little sense. All right, this guy is so special that he also gets Death Troopers. Okay, that's interesting. But another moment that, again, to me, is not fan service, but it's perfect. You see an Imperial troop transport drive up. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that's my toy. I have the toy right there's the toy.
If you don't think that's fan service, there might be, we might have some. There's one moment. There's one moment later on that relates to that. I think it's in this episode with the cannon.
Well, the reason I don't think it's fan service is because your average modern Star Wars viewer is not going to give a crap or know what the hell that is.
Well, yeah, but it's fan service too.
As opposed to a land speeder.
It's like hyper focused fan service on like extra fan service for like just really.
That was like
either way.
And that was something that, again, that's a Filoni thing because he did it. I think it was Rebels. It might have been Rebels where he brought the Imperial troop transport for the first time in an animated. All of a sudden, this toy that was basically EU. It was only made to make. It was made to make money. Yep. It was a way of creating EU toys. Now, not only is it canon animated, it's canon for real now, as far as I'm concerned. And as the show is ending, we kind of see that the biker scouts are catching up, and all of a sudden you see Quill on the floor, and I think you see the biker scout grabs the baby Yoda, and drives away, which is like, oh my God, what just happened? Talk about not being afraid of getting rid of a character. At this point, we're kind of thinking, is he dead? Is he just passed out? But I'm like,
I really didn't think so.
It didn't look too good.
I really didn't think he was dead. It just seemed like they did the whole lingering on his body shot. So I felt like at the end of the episode we were going to see something like we saw previously with Ming Chao Wang saying, you're going to see some sort of like,
some kind of hook. That is like, well, this brings us to Chapter 8, which is the final episode of the season and the season finale, directed by Taika Waititi, our favorite IG voice person. Not only is he voicing IG-11 in this one, but he's directing the episode. Funny thing, as we speak, there's rumblings of the possibility that they might have offered him a Star Wars film. Right now, it's just a rumor. Who knows which way it goes? Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
It wouldn't surprise me. I actually would welcome it, actually.
Yeah. So, again, this is a direct continuation. This is really part 2. It's called Redemption, the name of the episode. And in this episode, oh, man. You definitely see the influence of this particular director because the beginning of the episode is basically the two scout troopers taking a break on their bikes with the bag with the Baby Yoda, and then just kind of like talking. It almost sounds like a Tarantino film. They're just kind of talking crap.
Yeah, that's I can imagine these two guys in a diner. It's not like some diner shot Tarantino, just some back and forth with each other.
And they're even doing practice target shooting, and they're missing like a typical stormtrooper. They both cannot hit anything 10 feet away from them. And one of them wants to see the Baby Yoda. The other one's like, no, I already saw him. You don't want to see that. Come on, let me see it. You know, they're doing that back and forth. And then at one point, one of them gets angry and like punches the Baby Yoda in the head a couple times. And everybody, like, we were watching and we were like, what the hell did you just do? You can't do that.
It was like the two most hated stormtroopers now.
Oh my God. And yeah, that was unexpectedly cruel.
it was cool, but a lot of people don't like the scene. I mean, they think it's too much, but I loved it, man. I thought it was so. It was so Taika Waititi. Like it was his humor directly inserted into a Star Wars show. And I liked that. I didn't think it was too much. Like it did tread the line between maybe being a bit too, silly. But I think it stayed within its bounds, and it was pretty funny.
Well, I think the reason it works is because all of a sudden the IG-11 unit comes by and completely beats the crap out of them.
Yeah, breaks one guy's hand and like.
Oh my God! And again, that's why I said earlier, it's a kind of like a Tarantino scene where you have this ridiculous humor that doesn't seem to fit this movie, and then you have this horrendous violence that
right next to you.
It kind of levels things back. It balances it out again in a bizarre way. And now, luckily, when you don't see like I was afraid that the Baby Yoda was going to have like a black eye or a bloody nose or something. But no, it's like it was kind of like it looked like he was punching a puppet. So that's what it is. So you don't feel that bad. But yeah, that was really unusual. So one of the things we learn as Moff Gideon is trying to talk them out of leaving. Well, you have 2 hours or you have 5 hours or whatever. I don't know how long he's giving them to get the hell out of there, to come out with their hands up, that kind of thing.
Let me just say something. This scene was like bothered me the most. Like for two reasons. Like he was giving this big speech like, hey, you guys must surrender now, but I will give you 2 hours to do so.
It's the Bond villain.
Yeah, but
Mr. Bond, I give you 30 minutes to get out of that.
But I'm going to just stand here this entire time and wait. Why not just go? Like you're clearly outnumbering them, so why not just go in there?
I'm not going to give a speech about how much I hate you.
And the other thing is, like, you're talking about fan service. Like, he was on about the whole E-Web canon. He said, yes, you will now fall victim to my E-Web canon. And like it's like if they wanted to like give the biggest like shout out to like a toy or like the cannon from Hoth that they used to shoot the Falcon.
Well, you know what's funny?
Name dropping it like.
I saw that. I saw he called it what you said, an E-Web can, whatever. I then went online and I started looking for the toy. The toy is called something else. So
is it really?
It's not. It's technically not that exact canon, but it looks just like
it. It looks exactly like it.
The toy is like a T-25 blasting, repeating, blah blah blah. Some kind of thing.
Where he kept repeating. He's like, okay, this is the new E-Web canon. Did you hear about this E-Web canon? Like, okay, I get it. Yeah.
And like it looks a lot like the one from the first episode, doesn't it? It's like just another big gun. All right, whatever. So one of the, as he's giving his speech, and at one point he mentions something about that Dunn was an not only she was ex-rebellion, but she was from Alderaan.
Yeah.
It meant that he mentioned at some point. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Personal. That's a good, kind of chip on her shoulder to add on. And then he mentions the name Din Djarin as it being Mandalorian's name.
Yep, we finally get his real name revealed.
And he mentions something about the Night of 1,000 Tears. So during this episode, we also get a lot of these flashbacks that we've been seeing throughout the other episodes, kind of coalescing into one more straight story of his parents hiding him. And right before they were going to kill him, the super battle droids are about to kill him, the Mandalorians arrive. And that's kind of how a lot of this happened. We get a little bit of that flashback that gets fleshed out later. One of the things that is also mentioned here is, I think he mentions it, he says, Mandalorian is not a race, it's a creed. Because of the fact that he's not Mandalorian. He is adopted, more or less. It's basically whoever joins that particular clan of Mandalorian is a Mandalorian now.
Yeah.
So that makes things a little different.
Yeah. I mean, this is where the whole founding thing comes in, where, I guess they take these orphans in and they teach them the way, apparently, quote unquote.
And as you watch these flashbacks, the ones that land with the jetpacks, they're all wearing blue uniforms. And I think people have confirmed pretty much that the armband, the symbol, is the Death Watch symbol.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, wow, this is getting weird now. Now you're dealing with this weird, evil clan of Mandalorians that went completely crazy on the other show. And it's like, oh, wow.
Well, what's funny, what I liked about it is the fact that I think this is the biggest thing that they've crossed over from animation to now to live action.
Yeah.
And this is like the biggest thing they've ever had. Which is just kind of cool. I really liked it.
I know, and they look just like. I mean, they made them look just like them. That's incredible how they did it, and it was very reminiscent of that other episode where all the Mandalorians come to rescue him. It was, that battle was, and a lot of jetpacks, a lot of flying, a lot of that kind of stuff. We also then get IG-11, who's coming back to join the rest of them.
He just goes to town.
I love the scene where he's driving the bike and he's just shooting them up like they're toys. It was just an incredible action sequence. I loved it even better than the one where they're first finding the asset. Where they're shooting him up, one by one. Him riding that bike through the town, just hitting them all. It was fantastic.
What I liked about it is because when he was first riding with, he had Baby Yoda on the front of him. So I was like, how are they going to they're just gonna shoot him? And then he does this badass thing. He turns around and uses himself as a shield, and then starts shooting
that
more.
Robot flip.
That is so cool.
And then you have a scene where. It's, again, you have these little beats during the episode where it's like, oh my God, what are they going to do now? Because they bring out this, I guess we're all supposed to be scared, like a flamethrower trooper.
Oh, yeah.
He's got red, I forget, is it a shock trooper or a flame trooper
or
whatever?
Yeah, it's a flame trooper, yeah. He's like the red markings all over his
and
mask.
so he kicks the door down and he starts throwing the fire, and then the Baby Yoda does the Baby Yoda thing, and that fire gets pushed back out into him, and the whole tank explodes, and that kind of slows things down a little bit more. In terms of, okay, the good guys can rest a little and figure out what to do next.
Speaking of which, I want a Black Series figure of this guy, of the flamethrower guy. If they make a Black Series figure, I really hope they make him.
You'll probably get it because, I mean, it's really a stormtrooper with
just red,
back and color red. I mean, it's...
me, I have my armor and everything, but it looks so cool.
At this point, not only when the IG unit was riding through town shooting him up, but in the house, as he's protecting, he keeps talking about protecting the child, protecting. I start to get these Terminator 2 vibes of, this is the Terminator. This is the robot defending the young child against anything that comes his way.
Yeah, I see it.
And then they were able to cut a hole, I think, or blow a hole into the thing so they can get into the sewer so they can get out of there. And when they kind of reach an area where I guess all the Mandos were living before they all got the hell out of there, they find this huge pile of helmets. And it's like, oh crap, that's what happened. They came and killed them all.
Yeah.
And I think you even see kid helmets there too. So it's like, ooh, this is weird.
Yeah, I wish we would have seen, because what sucks is that's the last we saw of them. So I wish we would have seen a last, have them have their last battle or something. That's it. Next scene, they're all
you might get a flashback one day. You never know. You might get a flashback. Yeah. And he does reunite with the lady, that lady Mando, the one that she was building the armor.
Right. He's just forging.
And they talk about something having to do the Jedi versus the Mando. They have a history, because the child has these powers, so they're trying to figure out exactly what he is. And she tells them that basically his mission now, his whole goal is to reunite this child with the same of his kind, that he's responsible for this child now. That's his life. And she gives him a new emblem, because I guess up to this point he never had one.
Yeah,
he never had a signet.
In the first episode he was reporting to get his signet, but he didn't. he didn't kill that beast creature by himself. He had help with Baby Yoda, so she couldn't give him the signet then.
But at this point, she does give him the signet, and it is the Mudhorn. They call it a Mudhorn.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is that creature that he fought with. So right before leaving, because she doesn't want to leave, she wants to turn all the leftover armor into something, I guess. And it almost looked like to me like she was waiting to die, really, because you know the stormtroopers are coming.
Yeah, sure.
She gives him one final new weapon. Why don't you tell us what that is?
Well, she gives him the it's like this jetpack, thing that kind of like it seemed like she was making it out to be like something really special. Like, oh, okay, you had to have trained and used this thing. It's very special.
Because apparently he's never used it yet. He's never
seen he used it like so casually. Like, oh, okay, I guess it's just a normal jetpack. But they call it like the Rising Phoenix. Like it's a very fancy name. I guess they have to name everything really cool stuff. But it's really neat though.
And they kind of get away from that area, and she stays behind. And some stormtroopers do come to kind of arrest her or kill her or something, and she beats the crap out of all of them, basically. I don't know if she ever made it out of there, but she was just using like a hammer, like two hammers or something.
We see her die, don't we?
No, I don't think so. I think she was waiting for them, and then she beats the crap out of all of them. Now, in my opinion, there's going to be another wave of them, and another wave, and another wave. So I think she's dead, but they don't show it. Again, this could be one of these things where she can show up later.
Yeah, sure.
And we think she might be dead. So they get to this point where they're still underground, and it's like a lava river underground, because if you remember that planet, there was a lot of lava flowing through the planet in certain areas, and they get on this kind of like a boat, and that has an R2 unit, but the R2 unit is full of like rocks and stuff because of the melting lava or something.
Well, remember, like the R2 unit is really it actually creeped me out. Like he stood up and it had like these like really long arms.
All of a sudden,
like, whoa, what?
Yeah, all of a sudden the rocks start to break, and he kind of detaches himself from these rocks, and he's got long arms and long legs, and it's like, what the hell is that? So he's kind of rowing. He's like a rowing kind of robot, I guess. So the plan is they have to get out, but he can see through, I guess, like infrared vision. He can see that there's a ton of stormtroopers waiting for them outside of this river exit, this kind of tunnel exit. So the IG-11 unit, he's like, okay, this is what I have to do. I'm going to go out there and kill them all so that the baby can live, basically. And again, to me, it was screaming Terminator 2. This is the Terminator getting into the molten lava type of thing. And he's walking.
Thumbs up. I was waiting for
I know. And he's walking through the lava, and the more steps he takes, the lower he gets, because he's starting to melt into the lava. But by the time he gets to the front, outside of the entrance or the exit of this tunnel, he detonates that thing that he wanted to detonate on the first episode.
He finally pays off. Like, he's been wanting to detonate this thing. Like every time they see him,
he's been threatening. Every 20 minutes, he wants to blow himself up. So he does blow himself up, and killing all the stormtroopers out there. So they're able to get out, and escape. And that's where we think that's the end of it. But then they kind of see in the horizon there's a TIE fighter coming towards them. And it's obviously Moff Gideon and his super duper TIE fighter, and he's shooting them up. And at that point, he puts on the jetpack, and he shoots himself up in the air. And with one of those wire things, he's able to grab the TIE fighter and kind of fly behind it, kind of be dragged. So he pulls himself into it, and he's able to put like a detonator bomb or something that blows up the TIE fighter, and he's able to get out and not crash, making that jetpack finally work like it should be working. And the guy crashes in the distance, and you think that's the end of the episode. But why don't you tell us how it really ends?
Well, it really ends, to quote Clue, how it really happens so you see, everyone, they part ways, and
right, it's the end of the episode. Goodbye.
Yeah. Which I really hope they bring Cara Dune back to in the next season. I think they will. But at the end of the episode, we see the remains of the Chart TIE fighter burnt out.
Yep.
And you right away okay, this guy he's gonna come out of it and be okay or something. So that's pretty normal fare. I wasn't expecting anything else.
It's a trope. It's been used before.
Yeah, it's pretty
it's
popular trope.
It's the Halloween trope. The guy comes back to life.
And so, but we see something cut through the armor of the hull of the TIE fighter.
But we also see some like Jawas that are already trying to pick the thing apart. They're already trying to take parts.
I didn't even know. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there were a whole bunch of Jawas there.
That's good touch then. And when we see something cut through the hull of the TIE fighter, and it's like a black blade, and which is in Legends and in even current canon, which is Star Wars.
Well, in Clone Wars.
Yeah, in Clone Wars, and also in Rebels, there's something called the Darksaber, which plays very heavily into Mandalorian culture, which I figured they would do something with it, but I expected to be in the hands of the Imperials, basically. So I figured when we saw this thing, I sort of figured, because we're talking about Mandalorians here, I figured it would either show up or it would be referenced, but we see it in the hands of an Imperial. And generally, most of the Mandalorians at this point have been pretty much wiped out, or at least heavily suppressed. So the fact that this item, this Darksaber, is sort of a symbol of Mandalorian unity, really. So it's sort of implying that if the Imperials have it, and generally a Mandalorian wouldn't give it up, unless they fight to the death for it. Generally, it's implying that the Mandalorians have been pretty much wiped out at this point, or at least that the leader of the factions have been killed off. So very interesting, and it just looks really cool. It has like this shimmering black glow to it. It's really weird looking.
Yeah. It looked weird in an animated form, I remember. It looked very different than anything else. And in live action, it looks also very different.
Yeah, it definitely looks weird.
So this brings us to the end of the season, not only of these 4 episodes, but the entire season. It's only 8 episodes, the entire season. I mean, and at first I remember I was a little concerned that the episodes were too short. I was trying to get used to that short format. But then after a while, it kind of grew into those time limits.
Yeah, I did too, because I had for the weeks that it was on, I sort of had a routine going. I got to wake up, I'd go for a run, and then I'd come back in and watch Mandalorian while I'm working. So it was really great. It was really fun, and I like how they were so very short. I can have breakfast basically while watching it while I'm working. So it was really. I like the time limit. I like the fact that they were shorter, kind of bite size, not a lot of need to fluff, even though you can say that maybe the middle episodes were kind of fluffy, fillery, but
not a lot is confirmed obviously yet. I mean, we know there's more seasons coming, at least another one. That's
definitely,
for sure.
There's one definitely.
And the only thing I also know is that apparently Carl Weathers is going to be directing at least an episode from the next one. He's already been confirmed. And Moff Gideon is going to come back, and I think he's going to be a central character, at least in the second, or at least part of the second season, in terms of the kind of tease that we just got in this last episode. There is also rumors of possibly, I know that they, right off the bat, some people were saying, well, maybe they can turn this into a movie. Maybe they can turn this into a standalone film. I was like, okay, well, let it breathe. Everybody relax.
Yeah.
The other thing that I am looking forward to, and we've already seen some things, is merchandising. The whole issue with the Baby Yoda not being merchandisable because they wanted to keep it a secret. In another, 2 months now, I think we're going to be starting to see a lot of plastic.
Oh yeah, definitely
show up in the stores.
I'm pretty. In fact, I saw pre-orders for Baby Yoda.
All different sizes, all different kinds, and figures. Hell, I've seen pictures of 3 3/4 versions. I think Hasbro versions of the Mandalorian, Cara Dune, and I think the Sand Trooper.
Okay.
I believe those 3 have already been pictures have already leaked of the carded figures. So, hell, this could be a huge line if they wanted to. I don't know if they want to. It's a little weird in terms of how these things are marketed because, for example, usually when a movie comes out, they will have a line of toys, a line of action figures at least, that are exclusively designed. The card backs are designed for that movie. So you'll have, like, The Force Awakens carded figures.
Yep.
Well, and I'm pretty sure we had Force Awakens, we had Solo, we had Rogue One, we had Last Jedi, but for this last film, The Rise of Skywalker, for whatever reason, they decided to card the Rise of Skywalker figures on vintage cards. they're not giving Rise of Skywalker their own designated line of cards.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's a little troubling. I mean, to me, that shows a little bit of not confidence in the line, that they have to kind of disguise it as something vintagey to kind of get people, oh, vintage, I must buy vintage.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, if that's a new trend for Star Wars as a whole, or that's something that was just applicable to that.
We sort of had a hint of this with Solo, because if you notice, the Solo line of figures, like they did have you're right, they did have the carded, but
it was the yellow,
it was a very limited amount of figures, and it wasn't that many, and there's something off about them. It didn't seem like a normal, standard line of figures for Solo. And then we got to Rise of Skywalker, where there was none. There's no main line of Star Wars figures. Nope. They had the Black Series, which I love. That's my personal favorite. But there's no main standard 3/4. So, yeah, I really hope that. I mean, it's the last movie, but still, I hope that we can at least get these more standardized, normal main lines again, because it feels weird having no actual main Star Wars figures, the 3/4 versions. But when you go to the toy aisle, usually you would see them. There's just nothing there.
And unfortunately, from what I'm seeing, it looks to me like The Mandalorian is also going to be on a vintage cardback. I have a feeling they are abandoning, or at least they're taking a break from the specifically line art, specific movie line, because what I'm looking at here is just like a vintage one, even with the Kenner logo in the bottom to make you think it's vintagey. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of original carded stuff. I like the art that they use. I like how it differentiates itself from all the other lines. I like how it belongs to a certain group. But to kind of throw it into vintage, I only want to see vintage with vintage. I don't want to see a modern figure with a vintage card.
To me, I mean, I'm not too wrapped up in it. It isn't really. It's not like offensive to me or anything, but it just feels kind of weird. Like this didn't exist when this card. I can see you repackaging older or using the older figures for it that actually had vintage backs on them at one point.
Well, again, the only purpose for, as far as I'm concerned, is to tug at the heartstrings of vintage collectors.
More like it.
No kidding. To give you that vintagey feeling, it's another form of fan service, if you will. It's trying to get you to do something without really giving it to you. The figures look pretty good, and there's going to be. I mean, if you just think about this TIE fighter, I mean, good Lord, man, somebody's going to make it. Somebody's going to produce it and start selling it.
I would love a box set of the TIE fighter with the folding wing action, definitely with a 3/4 Moff Gideon.
But if you think about it, I mean, because this is a television show, there's so many characters that potentially could be turned. The amount of characters they could turn into action figures is ridiculous. I mean, aside from the main characters, every episode has at least maybe 4 or 5 characters
episode 6 with the heist, that introduced a bunch of aliens that all could be, you can have like a 4-pack box set of all of them, of the whole crew there.
Or could you imagine the Mandalorian ship for a 3 3/4 size? That thing would be big. I mean, Jesus, that would be huge. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be coming. It's like I said, we know it's coming. We've seen the pictures; they're out there already. And at this point, it's just a matter of waiting for more of the show to come. They got to keep pumping out. Coming up next, we have Clone Wars, the final season. The secret, super extra season, whatever they want to call it.
I have to get myself more pumped up for that, because right now I'm like, I'm definitely watching it, but it's just like I'm like, okay, all right, sure. I have to get back in that mindset, I guess, of that Clone Wars era, Sokatana. I might have to rewatch a few episodes just to get myself back in.
Well, the thing is that, Rebels finished and Resistance is about to finish. And Resistance really wasn't, as far as I'm concerned, to the level of Clone Wars or even Rebels. It was one notch below. It was more kiddie-ish than anything else. But they did try to infuse some canon seriousness every now and then. But they're going for these shorter seasons now with these other animated shows. I mean, I know that's the Disney formula. They don't like to go, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons of anything animated. But because they have Disney Plus now, I'm sure they're going to have to give us some kind of Star Wars-y thing pretty regularly. They're going to have to feed us some kind of Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm going to say they have to get the IV drip going.
Right,
so.
Right. And they have to kind of pace themselves. They don't want to go crazy and overlap too much. Now, after Clone Wars, what do we get? I don't know. I mean, The Obi-Wan series seems to be way in the horizon, way in the horizon. The Cassian Andor series, I guess maybe that's what might be next.
I don't know. Honestly, I think Obi-Wan might be. We might get that before Cassian, maybe.
Because
I'm not sure.
I just heard something. I mean, one of the rumors going around is that Obi-Wan is being not scrapped, but delayed slightly because they want to rewrite the episodes and turn them into like 90-minute episodes to make them more into like these little movies almost, for a total of like 4 episodes. I don't think it's going to be like this, 8 short episodes. I think they want to make them 4 long episodes instead. So they want to, I read something about that. They don't want to make it look like the format of The Mandalorian. They wanted to give it its own identity.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which I don't know. And with Cassian Andor, I could have swore they were about to announce their shooting schedule and stuff like that already. So
really? Okay.
I think Andor is going to go faster than Obi-Wan. But at some point, they got to announce more animated shows. I mean, they always have something animated.
Yeah. I was sort of surprised that Resistance ended, but then that's it. Like there was no like follow-up. Right. I can imagine that because these shows take so long to make. I can really imagine that there's probably something in the works, like literally right now, but they just haven't, they haven't announced it yet. So we might hear something. Maybe in the springtime, maybe we might hear something that they're coming up with a new animated series.
Right, and I imagine that Disney Plus as a whole doesn't just think about Star Wars in terms of how we're going to give you Star Wars for a full year. No, they're probably thinking, okay, we go Star Wars crazy. Now let's go Marvel crazy. Now let's go this, like take turns, spread it around, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But anyway, this has been great. I really enjoyed going over these episodes. And whenever you have a new show that pops out of nowhere that it's actually good. It's like, wow, that you don't have to kind of bend yourself into a pretzel trying to defend. It's really unusual, especially with Star Wars lately, where there's so much negativity and so much discourse in terms of even talking about it.
Yeah, this is the one show that it seemed like it sort of brought the fan base together, at least temporarily, to say like, okay, yeah, we can all settle. This is actually a pretty good show.
I could imagine how this kind of a show would take a bigger lead when it comes to like celebration and conventions and stuff like that, where because the movies are technically over, the trilogies are over, they can kind of take a back seat and let some of this stuff take the front seat.
Right.
Promote those actors more than the movie actors, because the movie actors are, okay, we're done. Let's leave them alone now. Let them go to wherever they go next. And, again, by this summer, I believe it's California. I think it's Anaheim again, Celebration. They're going to have to start telling us what comes next, and they're going to have to start showing us something. So I imagine at least we'll start getting some behind the scenes of Andor Cassian series, maybe some preliminary stuff, maybe an animated show, something. I'm sure Mandalorian, because I have a feeling I could have swore I heard they want to continue this next year pretty much around the same time.
Yeah, I think so.
They got to start cranking these out. So anyway, once again, thank you, Steve, for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a fun one. I'm really happy the way this turned out. I had my fingers crossed that this wouldn't be like another big fan divisive thing, but I think we landed a winner here, so I'm happy to talk about it.
I still think that Disney Plus should get the rights to put all the Ewok movies and the droid cartoons and the holiday special.
I'm pretty sure,
all the things they're ashamed of, they should put them all anyway. What the hell? Let the fans... when they don't appreciate something, you can say, well, why didn't you watch this? And then you'll really appreciate that. All right, I hope everybody enjoyed today's show. We went through the second part of Mandalorian, Season 1. Man, was this a good show. And talk about this now becoming one of the most eagerly awaited returns. We're already in 2020, and from what I understand, the show is coming back in about 8 months. Believe it or not, this is going to be back, I believe, in October of this year. So, hey, I'll take it. They got to spread out all this Star Wars content, and I think so far for Disney Plus, this is exactly what they wanted. Not only do they have a good show, the fan reaction is pretty much where they probably want it to be. Unexpected, breakout characters, especially the Baby Yoda character, the assets or the child. We have most likely the return of certain characters that were introduced. Wow, talk about a complete home run, for Lucasfilm. No wonder there are interviews now with Bob Iger saying how they want to focus more on television. No kidding. When something is done right, everybody, changes their plans and, starts driving in that direction. There are even rumors of spinning off certain characters of The Mandalorian into their own shows now. So we'll see. We'll see which way they go with this, but can't wait to return, to the topic of The Mandalorian. So on behalf of everybody here, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Steve, for participating in today's show. And we will see you guys soon here at GeekFest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody. If you would like to subscribe to our show, send us messages, or see video links to some of the topics we talked about today, please visit our homepage at geekfestrants.com or our YouTube channel, Facebook page, or iTunes at GeekFest Rants.
I don't know what we're yelling about!
GeekFest Rants is produced by Carlos Perone, copyright 2020.
This broadcast is part of the IC Robots Radio Network. Visit icrobots.com for this and many other nerd/nostalgia related podcasts. You won't be sorry for long.